question is, what is it that can be done to move the needle? What is it that can be done to get them to think differently along the lines of what you said? Because on their own volition, they're not going to do it. So what is it that they can do?
I think, so as I mentioned previously, like the Islam encourages, and it is, we have our rights. We have our rights in Islam, and these things need to be, there needs to be discussions with them, with the Taliban. Not us, but like religious figures. I think that is one of the ways.
Religious figures from Afghanistan, or religious figures from the region?
All around
from the world.
From the world.
It can be, yeah.
Chandran, what you want to add something?
Yeah, can I just say,
yes,
I think Sveto just gave you a very good look at, first, we need to solve the problem of people going hungry and all of that. The women's issue is very important, but you're not going to change it overnight. So just focusing on that and saying what we're going to do, well, it ain't going to happen in 3 weeks or in 3 months. But her suggestion is to engage the international community, Islamic scholars around the world, bring them together. That cannot be led by NATO and Europeans, right? So we in Asia, other parts of the world, Africa, we live with Islam. We know the good things about Islam. And we negotiate them slowly. We don't carry a moral flag and say, you guys are bad, you got blood on your hands, you're terrible. And she pointed out, negotiate, take time. But you're not going to get results in two months.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. And we bring Islamic nations to go and convince them. But meanwhile, we suck up some of what we see as not palatable. Clearly not. But what do you want? War, bombs, and starvation and sanctions? No.
Yeah, certainly not sanctions. We are coming to the end of this discussion. I'd like to go back to SHANTHIE. What's your view about the suggestion of international humanitarian aid, as well as the Islamic scholars from around the world coming together and weighing in on the Taliban or the current government?
I think both are very important points, and but one note of caution is when you're looking at Taliban today, it is not a Deoband organization. It has linkages with Al-Qaeda, which is Salafi Wahhabi form of Islam. So
right.
thereby, there is, we are looking at the Wahhabi form of Islam, which is quite extreme. In addition to that, there is the Islamic State presence as well. And thereby, it is quite complicated in terms of the jihadi model in Afghanistan. But having said that, I think there is huge scope, especially from Deoband in India, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and other moderate countries coming together to bring some kind of pressure on Taliban to accept this moderate Islam rather than adopting this extremist form. And I think there is considerable scope here, both inside Afghanistan, particularly with the religious scholars which Sweta mentioned, but also in the region. And I think the Middle Eastern countries are looking at this option, and I think that would be a useful alternative to the extreme form of Islam this Taliban is propagating at this point of time. And in terms of humanitarian assistance, I think we will be engaged in this debate of whether we should recognize the Taliban or we should engage the Taliban. I think we need to engage, and recognition should come with some caution. Because unless they deliver on the ground, I don't think the international community should rush to recognize them. So whatever assistance has been given by international organizations, particularly the UN, has to reach the people, and that kind of delivery is essential at this point of time. Secondly is about these people who are trying to flee this country in very desperate situations. I think we need to work on that refugee situation to see that this thing stabilize, particularly when countries have closed the borders, especially Pakistan border. Things have been very problematic for the Afghans. So I think we have to work with the UN and its agencies to see that the Taliban behave in a particular manner wherein we can address the questions in the near term. And in the near to medium term, then we could look at issues of governance, which is again very essential, because if you don't look at this interim arrangement which is required and moderation which is required, I think we'll be going back to the 1990s, wherein you'll have a totalitarian regime with linkages with international terrorist organizations, which would be dangerous just not to Afghanistan and the region, but to the world.
There are just so many lessons to be learned from the recent history of Afghanistan, and very well articulated thoughts today. Unfortunately, we aren't talking about a war gaming exercise here. in real lives, I'd say, especially of women or of girls. The rest of the world, like us, are unfortunately just relegated to becoming spectators. Yes, programs like this do help create awareness, but there's an urgent need for action, real action, certainly not military action again. What is needed is clearly, from the discussion today, not unilateral action by powerful countries with vested interests that will perpetuate the cycle of short-term interests. What we need would be a well thought out, coordinated action by key international bodies such as the UN, such as the IMF, the World Bank, and the Asian Development Bank. Even though Afghanistan is not part of the Middle East, influential Islamic countries should weigh in from all over the world, as been suggested, on the Taliban leadership. Now, it's not so much about recognizing, but constructive engagement. Now, if we fail to constructively and firmly engage Taliban leadership, there's every chance that we will push them deeper into the dark side. It will become a haven for terrorist organizations. As for the rights and welfare of women and girls that Sweta has been talking about, that Wasif have been talking about, it will certainly be a lost cause.